Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Gifted Hoops podcast. We're knee deep in the off season, and I'm very excited about this episode. We're finally talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I want to say shout out to my guy Denver. We have one of the biggest OKC fans and creators in the building. Cone, say hello to the people, man. How you feeling?
Feeling good, man. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I mean, like I told you before, I'll take literally any excuse to talk about the Thunder. Like you don't really gotta push me to do it at all. I do it unprompted all the time to random people. So yeah, wearing one of like my 16 pieces of Thunder championship merch that I've got. I don't think I've worn maybe like 2 days out of the last month or so since they won it all that I've worn non-Thunder championship merch. So it feels great. It's nice to be a champion. You know, you're a Warriors fan, right?
Yeah.
Like you're used to this. Like, I'm sure in 2015 you were like, oh yeah, I'm wearing all my merch and stuff, and then by like the eighth one, you're like, I guess we got another ring, whatever. So I'm hoping the Thunder can reach that point where it feels more normal. But for the moment, I mean, I'm feeling great. I'm on top of the world.
Yeah, man. I gotta say, as a Warriors fan, like the feeling of winning a title for a team that you support is a huge thing. But I
Mhm.
gotta say, the turnaround for OKC is something that I feel like a lot of people just kind of brushed over. This is a team that
Yeah,
had Poku leading the tank to,
Thunder legend right there. Shout
yeah,
out Poku.
right. So just like I want to get your instant feeling on how it feels overall for the
Mhm.
fan base before we get to anything. Like you guys won, you
Yeah.
won.
Yeah, I keep having these moments, like random days. I'll just think to myself, I'm like, yeah, the Thunder are NBA champions. Isn't that insane? Yeah, funny story about Poku. First time I ever got to, so I'm not from OKC. I'm originally from Virginia. And I was like pretty split between like the Hornets and Wizards were both decently far away because there was no professional team in Virginia. And I like just, my family wasn't really a basketball family growing up. We were more so like college basketball because my mom and dad went to UConn.
Oh, okay.
But like I became an NBA fan when I was younger. And just so happened as I started watching hoops, it was right around when like Katie and Russ were coming into themselves, and then the Thunder moved over to from Seattle to Oklahoma City, became OKC, and that's right around the time when I was starting to get into it. So I started following them. But like, yeah, so first I went to OKC was I think in the winter of like 2021 or something like that, and my plane was like super delayed. And when I landed in the airport, Poku was just there picking someone up. So the first player I ever met in person was Alexei Pokushevsky. So shout out to the Thunder legend. There's a TikTok edit out there of me saying that he could become an All NBA player someday with his highlights. And as we can see, that didn't exactly happen. Maybe a little bit delusional back in the rebuild days. But yeah, so it has been a crazy turnaround. I mean, I think about where we were like 5 years ago. It was the 2020 season with Chris Paul and Shea had just gotten traded over, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, the team is way better than people expect. And then the real tanking started to begin in the next few years. And like, I mean, I was a big believer in Shea. I thought he could become an all-star, an all NBA, eventually an MVP caliber player. I was like, he's the franchise guy. But then he puts on like legitimately one of the best guard seasons ever. And now J Dub is an all-star year 3 already, and the supporting cast has really come into its own. Like in terms of the championships and stuff, Thunder fans aren't spoiled because we've been through a lot of heartbreak. Like so much talent has come through Oklahoma City. Theoretically, to only result in one title, Russ gets hurt this year and KD's hurt this year, and then happen to run into one of the greatest teams ever assembled, and a certain franchise steals away Kevin Durant. Things like that happen. Damian Lillard does exactly what you just did there, waving by as well at the end of a series. Like a lot of stuff has happened, but I feel like not spoiled in terms of championships, but spoiled in types of the talent that has come through Oklahoma
Right.
City. And so it's just cool to see that it wasn't like the three MVPs that got it done. It was Shea, it was Dub, it was Chet. It was this deep, really great defensive team. Like I'm a big mid-range hoops guy, so I've always loved. My
Okay.
favorite thing has been like a mid-range assassin type of player. So Shea becoming the franchise guy was super cool for me, just in terms of what I like stylistically. And it's surreal. I got to go to a number of games in Oklahoma City over the years. The first one I was at, that game where I saw Poku in the airport beforehand, was I think 2020. Like I think it was Josh Giddey's first year, so maybe it was 2022.
Okay.
Um, and like that was, of course, in like the depths. And then I went to a game a year, like kind of since then. I got to go to a few this season. I live up in New York City, so I've been to when they played the Knicks a couple of times and the Brooklyn Nets. But I don't get to go to OKC all the time. So when they were on this run, I made it a note to get out there as much as I could. I was there for Game 7 against Denver. I was there for Game 1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Game 2 of the NBA Finals. And then I went at Game 2, Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7. I got myself to as many of those as I could because, we're not all the Golden State Warriors. The Thunder are supposed to do this again, but nothing's ever guaranteed. And getting to be there in person and speak to people, especially in the city, what it means to them, to see the way that the Thunder just coming into Oklahoma City has really changed the dynamics of the city itself, not even just, the sports landscape, to go through the heartbreak. And it's like, we went to a Game 7. And so, you've of course seen a lot of finals games. I like blacked out before Game 7. Those last 30 minutes, being in the building before the game started, I like don't remember any of it because again, like you're supposed to be back theoretically, but I've seen that before where the Thunder lost to the Heat and it's like, oh, they'll be back. They've got all this talent. You don't really ever know what it's going to be like. So easily one of the most stressful things of my entire life was watching my team on a championship run. I've never had that happen before in basketball. So I now know how stressful it is. But at the same time, it's like, again, and now I get to come to the realization every day that the Thunder are NBA champions. So it's really a roller coaster. It's simultaneously like the worst thing that can happen to you because you spend every single day stressed out of your mind. And oh my God, when like your team loses a finals game and you have to spend the next 3 days listening to all
with
the
think
media
pieces and all that type of stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I can't even imagine, what it was like. Because again, you've seen a lot more finals games than I have for your favorite team. So it's a lot.
So it's funny. I love your story about how you became connected to them, right? Ironically, I have a similar story, but it's kind of different, right? So for me, I started watching basketball later than most people. My dad is from Africa. So growing up for me, he never wanted me to watch any sports at all. Like he firmly believed that I should be outside playing sports. So I was really playing football for a lot of my time growing up. But once it was like, I believe 2013, I started to watch basketball because I was a part of a track team. And after practice, they will watch some games at times in the room and whatnot. Also, my brother went to college in OKC. So for Thanksgiving, we would sometimes go down there and I would watch OKC games sometimes. And the person that like really made me take an interest in even wanting to watch basketball before Steph Curry was Russell Westbrook. I watched a ton.
I've always said ball.
Listen, like that like I didn't know anything, right? But like seeing him just yell aggressively and like the entire team like go to bat and fight like hard games and seeing like how good KD was, like he's 7 foot and like he's making every single shot. Like they were a thrilling team to watch, and then seeing them at their peak, it was just outstanding basketball. So I've always been a fan of what OKC was able to create and cultivate, but seeing them pivot from that, where they had two MVP level guys, right? 3 in James Harden, but obviously, he wasn't at that quite caliber there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but to see them go from that to what they've done now, I think it's a pipeline that really deserves a lot of coverage and credit because I don't like when people forget about the receipts and what things were. When this team was not winning a ton of games, people were saying Sam Presti got to be fired. He's done a horrible job. He let all these guys go, all this and all that. And then within the span of like 4 to 5 years, they completely like changed the entire organization, the draft. Like the amount of picks that you guys got back in that Paul George deal is something that no NBA fan will ever forget about. It's crazy.
Nah, it's one of the craziest nights of my entire life. Like that was very early. That was right around actually probably within a month after I first got on Twitter because I started using it.
Okay.
I grew up at the beach. So I worked a beach parking lot job with my older brother. And we were bored at work sometimes. So we made NBA Twitter accounts and I was a Thunder fan. at that point he became a Sixers fan because we grew up on the East Coast, and that was right about when they got Markelle Fultz. So he's like, they're the worst team in the league. I'll start following them, and that has been a terrible decision for him. I feel so bad every single day that he didn't join me on with Oklahoma City, but we just made NBA Twitter accounts, and literally I think it was like about a month within that happening that Paul George gets traded, and then Russ gets traded a few days later. But it's funny, you talk about the talent that's always been there and like the ability to pivot. I mean, it's crazy because the Thunder have never had a season without a current, former, or future MVP on the roster. Like it's always been KD, Russ, James Harden, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But it's not even that. There's never even been a day where Oklahoma City, because Paul George was traded, to get Shai 5 days before Russ was traded. So there's never been a single day that the Oklahoma City Thunder have existed where there hasn't been an MVP player on the roster, either in the future or was at some point in the past, which is, again, what I was talking about. Like, as a Thunder fan, I know I've been spoiled with talent when it comes to the first big three and now the second one. And then, even along the way, it's like Paul George and Chris Paul, like Al Horford was here at one point, maybe future Golden State Warrior. Who knows? We'll see. But someday we'll see. Maybe it's gonna be like day before the season.
We've done nothing, and we're very deep into the offseason. I am depressed.
You lost Kevon Looney. That's something.
It's some type of transaction, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, a transaction has happened, but like it's crazy to see the turnaround. That the fact that the Thunder got a second chance, like that is incredible in its own right. I think it's a testament to Sam Presti, because I'm always a believer that general managers, they can't force you to win a championship.
Absolutely.
Sam Presti got the talent. He didn't always do the best job with the supporting cast the first time. They could have used a little bit more shooting. He kind of figured it out and took full advantage of his second chance. He brought in Hartenstein, he brought in Caruso, did great on the margins with the role players, with a Wiggins, 55th pick, and Isaiah Joe was cut by the Sixers and brought him in, an undrafted Lou Dort. He learned from his mistakes very, very well. And there's an alternate timeline where, they failed the first time and then he ends up getting fired. And then the Thunder are just, spiraling in purgatory forever. That's a timeline that exists. So thank God they didn't move off of him. And it's the way it goes in the NBA. You tank for 1-2 years and you've got people saying that the Thunder are the black eye of the league and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't say this enough. The modern era that we live in right now today, we want results immediately, and there's no difference in basketball, right? People treat these teams as if it's 2K. Okay, we don't win in the first year, blow up the team, trade the best player, get these 3 unprotected first-round picks, which we don't know what they'll actually turn into, and let's not actually elevate the process of everything that we do. The reason why I love what OKC did is they rebuilt everything, new coach, but they still trusted the continuity of Sam Presti all the way throughout, which makes the entire experience feel like a earned experience for this team. And they just completely transitioned into where the NBA is now. And that takes time, because 3 to 4 years ago, people were not confident in this team. Shoot, even at the beginning of this season, which will be the first thing we talk about, obviously, but the expectations coming into this season, people just did not believe in this team. And it was mainly because of, oh my God, they're too young and they don't have battles. And the most annoying word in sports, experience, which I was hearing a lot about.
100% agree, 100%.
Experience. They don't have enough. It's funny because every team that's never won before never has that experience we're talking about. I will never forget. A jump shooting team will never win a title.
Yep. Well, I think they won one, didn't they? At least one, maybe if not 2, 3, 4, something like that. Yeah.
A little bit,
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, no, I mean, I actually went back recently and looked at, even going into the playoffs, I looked at my playoff predictions video, and the Thunder were the favorites in the Western Conference. We might have even been the favorites in the entire NBA at that point. But there was a sentiment, I predicted the Thunder to win the championship before the season and going into the playoffs. I'm biased, but also I'm they are the favorites in the West and they're one of the favorites to win. I don't think it's that crazy. And there was a long list of comments from my comment section that I held on to, because they were like, oh yeah, of course a Thunder fan is going to pick, the Thunder to win the championship. You're biased. And here comes the OKC Shea Glaze sesh. And there was all the Lakers in 5 type things. You know how it goes.
We don't trust Jalen Williams. It's not going to be enough out of,
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, they got it done. And like you said, every young team, it's the same way I felt about the Celtics last year, where people kept saying, oh, it's the same old Celtics team. They haven't been able to get over the hump before. And then it's like, oh, yeah, sure, it's the Celtics, but they had Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, and now they're vastly better, and every number will tell you they're the best team in the league. And then they just went on to win the championship. It's like people want to continue to say, people just, I think of the NBA, I don't know as much about other sports because obviously I consume way more basketball than anything else.
Same.
Unfortunately, I'm also a Cowboys fan, which is like the worst thing ever.
I'm going to pray for you.
Is awful. Yeah, pray for me. Honestly, prayers aren't even enough. I could, if everybody wants to, that we might have a slight chance. But yeah, Micah Parsons, JD, you exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate the condolences. Thank you all so much. But yes, so that got me completely off track. Where was I even going with that? I was talking about experience and stuff. So yeah. Like, I feel like NBA fans are so bad about understanding what we're witnessing in the moment. Like, you know, with that Celtics team last year, it's like, hey, this is one of the most dominant teams ever. I don't think people realize how good they are. And now a lot of the conversations, you know, it was kind of like, oh, teams were injured in this and that. But I feel like now a lot of the conversations have shifted to like, oh, yeah, they were really good. And like, oh, they would have crushed this year's OKC team. And I do think that would have been a really good series. But sure. I think also then in a few years, it's going to be a new team wins a championship. And they're going to be like, oh, but 2025 Oklahoma City would have crushed them. Like, people just, basketball fans really love to dive into nostalgia or like don't want to acknowledge what's happening in the moment. And all season, I felt like that was happening with Oklahoma City when it comes to them having one of the best net ratings ever. And Shea, the season that he was putting up. I mean, you saw like, you know, Brett Usher puts out that one like reel of Shea, you know, getting buckets throughout the season. And everyone's suddenly like, wait, I was calling this guy free throw merchant all season. Was he doing this? It's like, yeah, if you turn on a TV or a league pass or anything, like
Colin, I am so sorry because you are cooking right now. Like it frustrated me to no end because I watched every playoff game in here, right? And when we're watching the game consistently, people keep saying he's a foul baiter, he's a dropper, all this and all that. But then after the entire games are done, a 2-minute reel of Shea just getting buckets. Oh, wow. I guess he is good. Like, really?
Yeah.
Are we watching the games?
Yeah, it's like the dude who led the league in scoring and just did it most because everyone's complaining. They're like, what happened to the mid-range jumper? It's like, here is one of the best mid-range scorers ever. He's doing exactly what y'all want him to. And they're like, wait, he shoots a few free throws because he takes more shots than almost anybody else in the league. Wait a second. And I mean, hopefully now people realize, but it's just, I feel like it was almost the same thing with Steph Curry. And I remember, you know, there was a moment where like 16, 17-year-old me hated Steph Curry because the Warriors took Kevin Durant and, you know, we blew a 3-run lead to y'all, which really, really sucked in the moment. But Steph Curry overall is one of my favorite players ever. Like, I love Steph's game. One of the most entertaining players that's ever played the sport. And I remember, like, especially in 2015, when the Warriors were first, you know, ascending, winning the first title, I loved Steph Curry because I was like, this guy is like awesome. It's like so different. And that's kind of, you know, he like revolutionized the game in that way with the 3-point shot. And obviously, you know, Shea hitting mid-ranges like this isn't revolutionizing basketball, but it also feels very different where it's, you know, he has a very different play style. Like, he's not going to dunk on you. It's just, how does he always get to a spot continuously in the mid-range? It's this very like herky-jerky, but also kind of smooth, like 6'6" guard. He's got a weird game to him. And I feel like also those like funky type of game players, people just don't know how to like understand and quantify. And they're like, okay, he doesn't match the mold of what I'm expecting. So he's a foul baiter or this or that, or, you know, it's like Steph Curry soft. And it's like, yeah, jump shooting teams can't win playoffs because people see something new and they're like, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. Hate him. Just hate him right off the bat.
There is always an equalizer. And I think this will perfectly transition us into the preseason stuff, right? But the ultimate equalizer is, did you win? And I hate that. But like, literally, if you like the amount of people that were anti-Boston because they don't believe in Tatum and Brown and all this and that, and they win. And now it's like, oh, they're just unbeatable when they clearly like were not the same caliber team this year as they were last year. Like, people do not update expectations. So for me, right, last year, I think Denver was my favorite, but I was watching Boston more. I'm like, okay, this Boston team is actually really, really good. I don't think Denver looks quite the same. I wouldn't be surprised. And then in the actual playoffs, you update these expectations. Some people
Yeah.
are hanging on to the idea of what we saw this team be for 2 or 3 seasons. This OKC team last year was very, very good. So to me, just like you did, I had them as my championship team in the preseason, mainly because of everything that they had. The amount of defensive depth all throughout this roster where there's like literally no more weak links. The acquisition to trade Josh Giddey away for Alex Caruso, which, my God, to me, that's still one of the biggest home run, no-brainer moves. In my opinion, Alex was such an integral part of this team on a day-to-day basis. Those are the reasons why OKC was my preseason pick, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I remember I was about to go hoop with some friends here in the city, and I had just gotten back to my apartment from being out for a little bit. I was like, all right, I'm gonna change and then immediately go hoop. And I told them I had to be late because all of a sudden I get the notification that we got Alex Caruso,
Bomb.
and I was so hyped. It was like an amazing moment because I mean, and that's the thing. People were like, oh, OKC, they lost in the second round last year. Like, they're going to lose again. Like, people get very set in stone with where they're at and don't really, process the changes. It's like, no, the Thunder, last year, Josh Giddey was unplayable for pretty much the entire Maverick series on both ends. And now you add in Alex Caruso, who is a better shooter and one of the best defenders in the sport, to already a stacked defensive unit. And then you worry about the rebounding. Okay, cool. We're going to add one of the better rebounding bigs with Isaiah Hartenstein, who's a monster on both ends of the glass. You have someone who can play make a bit more too, because that was another issue that we ran into against the Mavericks, and Pressey said it after the season, is that the Thunder didn't have enough playmaking. And adding a big isn't typically the way to address that, but Hartenstein is so smart with those backdoor cuts, hitting guys on the roll, like getting an offensive rebound and finding a shooter.
Every DHO and screen and all that,
Exactly. Right. And that's another thing. Like, we didn't have enough screening. Also, last year, anytime Chet left the court, we completely collapsed. Like, the net rating was like a plus double digits, I think, when Chet was on the court. And when he was off, it was like a -8 or something like that. Like, the Thunder really could not succeed without Chet. So now you add someone in Isaiah Hartenstein who can play with or without Chet. We saw the back and forth with the double big lineup throughout the season. And then they win a championship. Like, you address two of your biggest needs with two of the best players possible on the market to a team that was just the 1 seed. And it's like, oh yeah, they almost win 70 games and they win the championship. Like, it's, I just don't know how anybody was shocked that the Thunder won it all.
Yeah. And like, this is where we have to get to the realities, right? So outside of our picks for why we had them, basketball still had to be played. And I got to tell you this, I'm not really sure where you stand. When I was watching those first 9 games, and I saw Chet Holmgren, I'm like, oh man, it's in the bag. Because like, his threes were not falling, but everything else about, like, every improvement I wanted to see him make, where he's actually like punishing every mismatch. He's using his size. His passes are also there too, right? Like, most of the things that he didn't show the most of in the Dallas playoff round, he showed in those games. And then he went down, and I'm like, oh wow, are they going to be able to like still be as great? And they did everything. Like, there was a stretch where you had no Chet, no Hardenstein, and even J-Dub also missed some time, and OKC was still a very consistent team all the way throughout. And to me, that show, like this is why, to me, I value the regular season, because it's a longer sample size of you playing multiple different games in a consistently rotating schedule, and OKC just stayed consistent all the way throughout the season. But that initial start of the season, they were off to a very hot start.
Yeah, and that's, one reason why I'm optimistic going into next year. Obviously, one of the youngest championship teams ever, like, you're going to feel pretty good going into the next season. But also with, like, Chet, there are people who think he was massively overpaid with his contract. But Chet, like, the fact that he was the best defensive player in the playoffs last year, 5 blocks in Game 7 coming off a broken hip midway, or like, very early on to the season, he had to go ahead and recover, only got to play like 30-some games, and was immediately thrust into like, hey, you're a starter now on a team with championship aspirations. I thought he did incredibly well with all of that on his plate. And yeah, like you said, I mean, at the beginning of the season, Chet is, you can take a look at the clips. Like, he's moving a lot better. He's a lot more fluid. He's getting to his spots. He looks a lot more comfortable. The three ball like was not falling at all for the first 4 or 5 games. And then I think the next few it did, to the point where he was averaging like I think it was like 19-8 with like almost 4 blocks on almost like 50-40 splits after the first 9 games before he ended up getting injured. Like, it was insane what he brought to the table. And I believe Chet, probably if Chet didn't get hurt, even with Wemby in competition, I think Chet had a shot to win DPOY because of how historic the Thunder defense was. I think he's got a shot to win it this upcoming season if he can stay healthy. The Thunder have a lot of great defenders, so that might hurt his case. And, Wemby does absolutely insane stuff, so it's fair to assume Wemby's the favorite. He's my pick going into the year. But what Chet was able to do, and then the fact that even despite him going down, Hartenstein's able to step up, and J-Dub is playing center. We had a 6-game stretch where Jalen Williams is playing the center spot, which was crazy. Like, we had a game against the Clippers, and he put up like 30 points guarding Zoo on the other end. That was nuts. It was just super impressive. Like, depth, we've talked about this. I know a lot of people in basketball spaces is that depth matters a lot now in today's NBA more than ever, because players are more talented. So any extra pieces you have, like if you have a huge drop off, then when you bring guys on off the bench, if the other team's got a good bench lineup, you're just not going to stand a chance. Like, Indiana and OKC were 2 of the deepest teams in the entire league, and they made it to that point. Minnesota had really great depth as well once everything started to click for them. The Knicks were kind of the exception there, and that's a testament to some of their top end talent, but also how the Celtics just forgot how to play basketball against the Knicks, which was crazy in the playoffs. But yeah, it's depth matters. And like you said, I think people try to say that the regular season doesn't matter. I think just people don't watch it. And
I
so
agree.
they're like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't need to watch it because they want to go do other stuff. And it's like, no, everything that the Thunder
and there's highlights from TikToks and Reels. Yeah,
exactly.
And
then to the point where they see a Brett Usher tweet and they're like, oh wait, yeah, Shea's really good at basketball because I just saw 5 minutes of him hitting mid-range jumpers. It's like, yeah, if you would watch the games all season, you would have seen this.
I live in Detroit, right? I went to the Pistons OKC game. So in person, I was seeing OKC. And the things that Shea was doing routinely to be whoever wanted it, getting to his spots and the way that he pressured the rim. I was already saying last year, Shea was very, very good. And again, even though they weren't as good as they were this year, again, that series was a close, contested series. It came down to a late Shea foul at the end of the game for them to lose that series, and Shea rose himself to that level. So coming into the season and seeing people say, well, we don't know if Shea can be the best player on a team. We don't really trust J-Dub. They're young. They don't have, seeing Shea shut all of these narratives down is one thing, but specifically, the funniest part for me, at least, and again, this is no shade. I rock with Denver. I actually just had a podcast with my Denver people, Will and Grace. Big shout out to you, right? But outside of that, a lot of people were saying that the MVP is clearly Jokic. What is really Shea's argument? The numbers. But watching OKC, the funny part is the team I thought they were going to be, they didn't have until later in the season because Chet, their second best player, missed the majority of the season. But ironically, Shea was carrying so many lineups where there was no J-Dub. There was no Alex early, right? They had so many guys out of the lineup, but Shea consistently produced. And the other thing is, I think the way people view impact is so skewed, right? People have to understand, OKC, yes, they have a positive thing when Shea's not there. Fine. But when Shea's on the floor, it's the highest plus in the league. And that's because the way he's able to make these defensive-oriented, I would say, 5-mans work because of what he can do offensively. And I don't think that impact is really spoken about enough. And to me, that's a large part of why he won his first MVP, because of his consistency and how dominant he was for them to win, all those games. He was sensational this year.
Yeah, by the way, that Detroit game is one of the best games Shea's ever played. That's the one.
Absolutely.
That's the game. If I wanted to show someone hey, Shea's not a foul player, look what he can do, the Detroit game is one of the first ones I pull up. And I agree. I think people didn't really realize part of Shea's value because the team is incredibly talented. Like, yeah, it's a great supporting cast. I'm not going to deny that. But a lot of it is also the fact that, like, the reason it's so successful is because the Thunder were an all-time defense. It's
Yes.
maybe the greatest perimeter defense that's ever been assembled when you take a look at the personnel. But offensively, it's not the most perfect roster out there. Like, we really were, the Thunder were one of the worst 3-point shooting champions in quite a few years, and there were some ups and downs at times. And Dub's efficiency was struggling a little bit, especially throughout the playoffs as he was dealing with that hand injury. And I'm hopeful going into next year it's going to be better off. And Chet came back from injury and wasn't quite himself. Like, those are two of the bigger offensive weapons on the team. And Shea was still elevating the team to a far above average offense while the team has one of the best defenses out there. Like, that is what people don't realize, is it's not just, you got to put the context around the depth. Like, yeah, the Thunder are a deeper, probably overall more talented team than Denver, but it's because the reason the Thunder work the way they do and why it looks so good is because Shea brings to the table what he does offensively as the best one-on-one isolation scorer on the planet. Like, teams have to worry so much about Shea because if they don't, he's going to fry them. He's going to, get someone one-on-one in an island and hit a turnaround midi, or he improved as a playmaker this year. He's going to drive and get downhill as one of the most prolific driving guards that the league has ever seen and kick out to a shooter. And the Thunder do have capable shooters like, Lou, what he's become as an outside threat. And you don't want to leave Chet or J-Dub open, or Aaron Wiggins or Isaiah Joe or Casey Wallace. Like, these guys can shoot for sure. But Shea is the reason it all runs. He is so underrated as an offensive engine, while also, despite carrying that huge load offensively, being a good defender as well. Like,
right. Absolutely.
He's able to do a little bit of both. It's rare that you see a player do what he does offensively. He's not one of like the 5 best defenders on the team, but Shea is a positive defensively. And that in and of itself is also a big time benefit. Like, people talk about, oh, if I swap this or that player out for Shea on the Thunder roster, they would still be this good. Or if you took Shea off, the Thunder would still be at this point. Like, yeah, it's still a really talented team, but offensively, it would take such a massive, massive hit that like the team would be nowhere near the level it was without Shea, even though there's all this talent. Because the reason the system works, like, he is the offensive system, the way that Steph Curry has been for the Golden State Warriors, or like Jokic is for the Nuggets. He is also a big part of their system. It revolves around him. But the reason the Thunder are not just, hey, this all-time great defense that loses round 2 and instead NBA champions is because Shea elevates offensively. So,
yeah, no, I stand on like a lot of those things. And again, I actually was watching these games, and it's like seeing how Shea consistently.
You get it because you actually watch basketball. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that helps a little bit, right? I think what it is too is like the way that he consistently pressures the basket to create good looks for the offense time and time again. Like, plus the efficiency from the paint and also the mid-range area. Like, that is what opens up so many of these reads for these, I would say, groups where it's more defensive based. But I think the important part about depth is the context, right? What depth are we talking about? Because there are some teams that have many guys that can score offensively, but don't play any defense. OKC had a balance where we have guys who can contribute offensively, but our identity is defense. So all the way throughout, we have Case and Wallace off our bench. Like, that is the depth that we're speaking to when it comes down to how OKC won this year. And I just think that people didn't value that as much because in the past, we've seen like older teams. I really feel like this team being so young is why they doubted them. But I already said, I think the year where they had like no Chet and they narrowly missed the playoff, I'm like, wait a minute. So they had no real bigs on this roster and they were competitive. They were still a very much competitive team that almost made the playoffs. So like I early on knew like this team is really going to make a shift. And then this season, for them to do it in this fashion where Chet misses that many games and they almost win, like very close to my team. I'm not going to say too much about that. They didn't do it, but it was close and he missed a ton of games. Like, that just speaks to how dominant they were. So I love seeing these things shift. I will say though, right? So I would say at the halfway point, the 3 best teams in basketball were the Thunder, were the Boston Celtics, and were the Cavs. Like, those were the 3 teams where I said, okay, one of these teams for sure in my mind is going to win this year. And I felt like each team had a different reason for why they would win. OKC's defense was the best defense in the entire league, sure, but the shooting was at times like I need to see more from that, right? But
Yeah.
I think what they showed is the amount of guys that could just come in and have big games on top of just being a positive consistently. Like they turn you over more than any other team in the NBA, and they directly
Mhm.
feed off of that. And that type of intensity and fervor definitely carried on in this entire playoff run to me.
Yeah, like, and that's part of why the Thunder were able to be successful because it wasn't just a good defense; it was the most prolific turnover forcing defense ever.
Exactly.
And like that's part of the reason why it's so special as a unit is because and why you can like it's hard to succeed in the modern NBA if you can't shoot the three ball super well. But if you can give yourself this massive margin of error because you get like 20 more possessions than the other team because you're winning the turnover battle by like 15 and you get a few extra offensive rebounds, like it's going to be hard to lose that way, especially when you're giving Shea out of all people more of those possessions or Jalen Williams or Chet or it gets out to like an Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins or whoever. Like it's just hard to stop. And that's another thing about the Thunder too. And Indiana had a lot of it as well. Is not only is depth important in the NBA, like high upside depth is important. You
Exactly.
can't just have guys that can eat up minutes. Like the Knicks, in theory, had guys like you can have Landry Shamet or Campaign eat up some minutes here and there. But how often are they going to be this like massive impact on a game to the point where like
Right.
Aaron Wiggins would go out there and drop he had one game in the finals where he had a 20 piece, and that helps the Thunder win a game somewhat comfortably. Or, Alex Caruso is able to guard Nikola Jokic. Like he can either drop 20 points or have like zero, and he can still make this massive impact on either end of the ball. Like that's what the Thunder kind of have is that high upside depth. Same thing with Indiana, where Aaron Nesmith can hit 5 threes in the span of like a minute against the Knicks, and suddenly they're in position to win game one of that series. So it's more than just the depth; it's the upside.
It's the feeling of it too. Yep.
Yeah, and that's something that Sam Presti, like I think, is really nailed. Is back in the old OKC days, like we had okay players, like Dion Waiters was with the team for a little bit, and Anthony Morrow had some really really good years. But like down towards the tail end of the run, especially, it was like okay, guys can do stuff here and there, but like how often are they going to win you a playoff game? You need guys that can win you a playoff game. And the Thunder just had so many of them, whether it was getting Case and Wallace at pick 10, letting the Mavericks get Derek Lively. And I saw someone in the chat earlier mention Chet versus Derek Lively. I cannot believe those were legitimate discussions that were happening going into.
Cone. I'm sorry. I got to tell you this, right? So that comment earlier stemmed from this take of hate. People saying that, and by the way, like this is how crazy NBA fans are, right? It goes from they don't have enough experience to win to OKC could have won the title if you replace Chet with Derek Lively. Like that's how fast it swings when you win a title, man.
Yeah, it's like it really is crazy how it does feel like things have shifted so drastically from everyone like doubting the Thunder to being like, yeah, they could win a few, and there are still people that are like, they got lucky, like they'll lose this year and that. It is weird being on the other side of seeing a team win a championship, but like it is even just not even championship bias, but like who wins a series bias. Like the Mavericks beat the Thunder last year, and they were the better team in that series 100%. But then it's like, oh, Derek Lively's a better player because he beat Chet in that series. And it's like, well, hold on, like where did that come? Is PJ Washington better than like Jalen Williams or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Like where does it end type of thing? It's also, I'm guilty of it before, the bias every team has to their young players. I was saying Poku at one point was going to be an all-NBA guy. Clearly that didn't work out. I was saying Teo Maledon was like the steal of the draft.
Teo Maledon, yeah, that's a good one.
Shout out to him. That's a Thunder legend for real. But like it's the way it goes with the NBA. Everyone wants to have all this, love for their young players, which I get 100%. I think we see it a little bit now with like the Spurs. I know Spurs fans love Stephon Castle, and I like Stephon Castle a lot. But like when I've seen the takes where it's like, I wouldn't give up Stephon Castle for Giannis, I'm like, okay, hold on. We need to pump the brakes a little bit.
We got to pump the brakes something crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are some things. Yeah.
I've seen people reference the Shea trade with that. They're like, we can't trade Stephon Castle. What if it turns out for like the Shea trade? I'm like, okay.
brother, he does not have to.
Like, yeah, let's not push it a little bit too far saying it's going to turn out like the Shea trade. But yeah.
No, I definitely feel you. And as a sidebar before we get into the postseason stuff, I do want to say this. One of my favorite random OKC players, and again, this is when I was first really beginning to watch.
Yeah.
Alex Abrines, I
Love
rock
him.
with him tough. Okay.
Love
He was fun. For me though, and this is a real throwback to me, Andre Roberson. Now, he's
Yeah.
mainstream, I would say, but like the way he would just guard up and like every cell in his body said, I'm getting a stop consistently all the way throughout. Like his elite POA defense where they just could not really do much with him. Like these are the players that I think about. And they went from that to having a roster full of guys that can easily develop and turn into really potent and valuable players in an era, by the way, where now we have an entirely new CBA, which now people say, OKC's cooked. They're not going to have the money, the CBA, all this and all that. That's an all-season thing, obviously. But, like, that just speaks to the roster building that they have consistently gone through and the player development. You need both of those things to be a good team in this modern era, and they've done that. So, shout out to the Thunder for that, obviously.
Yeah. It's funny how the second apron has become the new boogeyman with the NBA. It's like any team that pays anybody, they're like, oh, it's the second apron. It's all over, which is part of the reason why people for a couple of years were like, okay, when are the Thunder going to get Shea help? You probably remember people are like, the Thunder got to trade Shea. Like,
I remember that.
He's years away. Yeah. Like, I have a video on my YouTube channel, which is from a few years back, where it was just called "The Thunder Are Not Trading Shea Gilgeous-Alexander," and it's me just like rambling. I was in Albany, New York, in a hotel with my then girlfriend, now fiance, getting ready to go to a wedding for her uncle, and we were getting ready. I'm like, honey, like, I promise this won't take too much time to the point where we're late for the wedding. But I was so pissed off at that point about the takes that I made like a video just quickly, like 10 minutes ranting, like, the Thunder not trading Shea. It's going to be fine. Y'all don't get what the vision is and this and that. And thankfully I was right. Here we are. But like, yeah, it's people just kind of have these like boogeymen in the NBA where it's, or like buzzwords where it's like Shea is a free throw merchant and it's, the second apron is going to demolish everybody. But people were wondering when the Thunder were going to go all in, and Presti didn't make the big acquisitions of Caruso and Hartenstein until after the new CBA came into effect. He said, like, in a few interviews where he was like, they asked him about making big trades, and he's like, we're kind of trying to figure out what the new CBA is going to look like because we want to know what we're up against. Because part of the reason the Thunder failed the first time is that the new CBA came in around the time when James Harden had to get paid, and then ownership was also cheap. Like, that was definitely an issue, but it messed up with what they were trying to do in terms of like aprons and things like that to keep James Harden. So like tax brackets, whatever terminology they use in the CBA at that point. Kind of mess with the vision a little bit. So yeah, it's like not only have the Thunder now set themselves up to the point where, we are going to have to make decisions on like players, who to bring, who to let go eventually. Like, that is a way it's going to happen, but there's no risk at all of Shea, Dub, or Chet leaving, or the team being like lacking any depth at any point. Really, the big thing is the Thunder need to hit on a few draft picks to kind of extend this thing beyond the next few seasons. But it's Sam Presti. I trust.
And that's going to be tough though, because they don't really have that many draft picks.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the big issue is the Thunder are notoriously known for not having a lot of draft picks. So I really don't know what they're going to do about that either. So I don't know. We might be screwed. Maybe people are right. Maybe the second apron's the end of us. I don't know.
Team is ridiculous, man. But this conversation takes us to the beginning of the postseason. Because again, we watched the regular season. We appreciate the regular season, but obviously all the eyes are on these teams. And to be fair, I can understand the perspective of it because there are players that play markedly different compared to like the actual big lights. And I have to start here, the first round, which is so funny because it was so like, I don't think you understand how many times, and I'm sorry if I'm getting mad, right? But I had so many dumb conversations with people about what playoff dropping means and the first round. Because last year when they played the Pelicans and Shea didn't have the cleanest looks or whatever, and you had Chet and you had like the entire team was dominating them, but they're like, oh, Shea, he didn't really play too hot there. Oh my God, how good is he going to be, right? And then he dominates in the second round. Everyone's quiet. The same thing kind of happened this year to me. Sorry, Shea was getting up a ton of shots in the series, but he wasn't really playing that well. But the team as a whole collectively was playing insane basketball all the way through and through. And I hate that Ja Morant got injured.
Yeah,
because the
because
talks
he had
became
Ja Morant had the Thunder figured out. Yeah.
had the Thunder figured out that like it was so frustrating because these were the talks, and then how close the last game was like, oh, I don't know, man. OKC almost didn't sweep them. I'm not sure how they're gonna get through like the next round. Like these were the talking points, and I just think that for this team, time and time again, they didn't really get their true respect to me until they actually won the title. But I want to start with you in the first round. What were your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my prediction before was Thunder in 5 because I was like, they had a bunch of time to rest, and the Grizzlies are still talented. Like they can get one, and I thought it was going to be that game 3 where Ja did end up getting hurt, and the Thunder made that massive comeback. But yeah, like I wasn't too worried about round 1 against the Grizzlies. I remember being a little bit nervous though, just because it was the first time in a long time that the Thunder have been looked at as like these favorites going into the playoffs. Like they're the 1 seed the year prior, but a lot of people were like, I think I lean maybe Denver a little bit more, who's more experienced. But like the Thunder were the team to beat going into this year's playoffs. So I was a little nervous. And I was on a flight. I can't remember where I was coming back from, but I was on a flight when game 1 was happening, and then they won by 50 points. So I was like, oh, okay, I feel a lot better now. I think we'll be perfectly fine. And that's the way it went. One of the big things I was curious about is like what the starting lineup was going to consistently be. Would we keep trotting out double big? And ultimately the Thunder did that, which kind of led to some slower starts. Again, that's one of those things that I think still going into next year needs some more evaluating is what does the double big thing look like with Chet having a full off season, and if he's a little bit of a better shooter going into next year, coming up, more time off that injury, looking more comfortable, then I think it opens things up a good bit more. But how does that continue to look? And with Hartenstein probably gone at some point within the next either year or 2 at the most, like, do we just do more Chet at the 5 reps? Does Thomas Sorber play? Like, there's a lot of things to figure out. But round 1, that was kind of my main thing. Like, Shea was clearly feeled out FC. He's like,
Yeah,
hey, I'm going to take my time, see how it goes. And
he was
by the end of
chilling.
the series, yeah, he ended up being fine, kind of just seeing how he wanted to go. It almost reminded me of there were a lot of points throughout the season when the Thunder would play, really, especially like bad teams. Not that the Grizzlies were a bad team, but like they were the weakest opponent the Thunder were going to play in the playoffs.
Yep.
Shea would go out there and just shoot a bunch of threes, and Thunder fans would get mad. They're like, why is Shea tanking his efficiency? Why is he taking 8-9 threes? And it's because like this game, like he doesn't really need to go that crazy. Take some threes, get practice reps in game speed of that type of stuff. And it's almost what it felt like to me for the Thunder for a little bit. It was like, we'll just kind of see how it goes. Not that the Grizzlies were bad or anything like that the Grizzlies were not a deserving playoff team. Obviously, they were one of the weaker teams out there, but it just there was a massive gap. Like if people were like, whatever you have to say, oh, they almost didn't sweep a team. Like, come on, what are we doing?
Almost did sweep, right?
Yeah, the other team almost won 1 out of the 4 potential games they would have needed to win a series and pull off the upset. Like, you're pushing it a little bit too much there.
Yeah. So I vividly remember how that was going. And then we get into the second round, which to me was definitely cinema. For me personally, I had OKC winning the series in 6 games. I felt like Denver was a team that I just saw like black magic things out of a lot of their players. Aaron Gordon was one of the best players in the playoffs, period. And just I think it was such an important series for the Thunder. And I think it's important to log it now because if this team goes on to become a real dynasty and they win multiple championships, that Denver series to me is where they were really, really tested more than any other series to me. And that's where like a lot of their mistakes they kind of pay for. I mean, dude, game 1, how did game 1 feel as a fan? Because game 1 had everyone in an uproar insanely. Because I'm sorry, like seeing Jokic be out of the game, the immediate foul, Chet missing the 2 free throws. Russell Westbrook, by the way, former franchise player, bringing the ball up, dotting Aaron Gordon in the corner for the 3 to end the game at home, dropping game 1 for a team that never won. A lot of people were losing their minds over the game. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, that was tough. That was a moment where I was like, okay, damn. Because I had Thunder in 6 going into the series. I was like, home court advantage. Like maybe it could end up going to 7, but I think the Thunder are going to win in 6. Just better defensively. I think the Nuggets offense or defense isn't going to really be able to slow down Shea all that much. But obviously respect for Denver and Jokic being the best player on the planet. Like, I'm like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a really tough series. And then, Aaron Gordon hits that shot, and he had hit the game winner against the Clippers already. And after that, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a bit of a dogfight. But even then, like after game 2, the Thunder knocked them out in a big way. And I'm like, okay, like we'll be fine. That was just our, shake off the rust kind of game, because they hadn't played in forever. And the Nuggets were, of course, very much in rhythm, playing 7 games against the Clippers. I'm like, it'll be fine. As the series goes on, the Nuggets will tire out a little bit. The Thunder will be fine. And then we lose game 3, and we're down 2-1 with a game on the road in Denver. And we were down going into the 4th quarter. I'm like, all right, this is the moment. If we want to go ahead and show that, we're a championship caliber team, you got to do it now. And they did it. Like they found a way to make it happen, whether it was Lou Dort. I just saw Tank in the chat mention Lou Dort hitting those threes, like that stretch where Lou Dort's hitting a bunch of threes, like that was massive. Or J-Dub hitting a clutch 3 and Shea taking over. Like, it was a little bit of everybody, and that's the depth that we talk about. And ultimately, that was what kind of gave the Thunder the win on the series. It's like, Caruso's defense on Nikola Jokic in game 7, or Shea being able to take over, or J-Dub, he had a pretty up and down series, but had a couple of those games where he really put it together. Like Case and Wallace had some great defensive moments too. Like
game 1, Alex Caruso. Like, I think people don't talk about the game because they lost. My God, what Alex did in that game 1, man. He was great.
I know. And I remember a few people, because he didn't shoot the best throughout the regular season. Like, it was very up. I remember especially early in the season, Caruso's 3 ball wasn't falling. And there were people like, oh my God, is Caruso going to be unplayable in the playoffs?
He's a fake shooter. He can't really play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, no, he's one of the best defenders on the planet. And he is one of our more reliable shooters. He's going to be fine. Yeah. But like that was, I think that was really the grow up series right there. Like Denver, I said going into it, like in the Western Conference, the only team that I'm like kind of worried about is Denver. I do still think the Thunder will win, but just because of Jokic, the experience that they have and things like that, they are going to be a huge test. And once the Thunder got past them, that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I feel pretty confident now we're going to win it all. And then Indiana, everybody thinks they're not going to be a victim of the Indiana Pacers until you're a victim of the Indiana Pacers.
That's how the playoffs were going for the Pacers.
Literally game 1, I'm like, it's not going to happen to us, right?
And it happened that exact same, like, listen, I'm sorry, right? Like, I watched the entire playoffs, like all of it, game by game on here. Mm-hmm. We have multiple VODs here, right? And like, I vividly remember like saying, I like the Pacers over the Bucks. I like the Pacers over the Cavs before I knew, what was going to happen. But the fashion in which it was happening, Gary Trent in the first round doing what he did in game 5, and them still losing the game despite being up. The comeback versus the Knicks, where I literally see a human being turn into Steph Curry in the 4th quarter to help full force overtime. The Tyrese, like, forever poster of him choking in the shot. Like, they had all these crazy moments. And then that game 1 versus OKC, again, just like the Denver series, where you have game 1, you're up, but like you can't quite put them away as much. The Miles Turner
corner bank 3.
Yes. That exact
That's
play.
the moment when I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do it to us.
Yes. We were sitting here like, I saw that. I'm like, I don't know, man. That like, if he's hitting shots like that, it's going to be tough. And then it all ends in the Tyrese mid-range pull-up for game. That must have been a crazy feeling, knowing that this team just made it to the finals, made short work of the Wolves in the conference finals, and now they're starting out their chance to win a title with that. That was tough.
Yeah, because like the Wolves series, I'll just touch on it real quick, and then we can actually talk about the finals. But like
sure.
the Wolves series is one that I wasn't super stressed about. Not that Minnesota was bad, but I just felt like once we beat Denver, again, like that almost to me felt like the grow-up series for the Thunder.
I agree.
Where they had gotten over that hump, they had gotten the experience, beating this championship team, and now like I'm like, they're going to be fine the rest of the way. Oh, I was at game 1 against Minnesota. They were struggling at halftime, and then they ended up, kind of figuring it out, winning decently comfortably by the end of game 1. They win game 2. Game 3, just, scheduled loss, get absolutely destroyed on the road. And then Game 4 come into it. And that was one of the best games of the playoffs, where it came all the way down to the end and the Thunder were weathering every single punch. Like, that was the game. Really, that's how it kind of was for me in both the Nuggets series and the Wolves one. I'm like, literally just win Game 4 and you're good. Like, I trust us in Game 5 and to get it done. Same thing with, the Indiana series when we again went down 2-1. I'm like, win Game 4 and you'll be fine. Like, I trust them to defend home court. But like Minnesota, I just felt like all in all, like they were really, really good, but I didn't think Julius Randle was going to be able to handle the ball pressure. And that did end up becoming a problem. As good as Ant was, and as good as, he was in terms of decision making, a lot better than I thought he was going to be going into the playoffs. I just felt like the Thunder were kind of a different animal for them to go up against, and that did end up being the case.
It's just hard for guards to be like a efficient version of themselves consistently versus this type of defense. I agree with you there.
Yeah. I feel like just with this, it's hard to kind of be led by most. That's part of why I think the Nuggets did such a good job, and the Pacers. I mean, just everybody's super talented. But like with the Nuggets, when your top player is a big going up against the Thunder, who, again, I think they're maybe the best perimeter defense ever, but interior wise, like there are, we don't have a lot of bigger players. It is Chet, but he's a little bit thinner in frame. And again, he's coming off the hip injury, and Hartenstein isn't like super mobile, even though he's a big body. Not a lot of like huge forwards, no one that's like 6'11", like 6'10", kind of at that power forward spot. So that is a spot, if you want to try and take advantage of the Thunder defense at all, you try and go inside a little bit more. And I think that's, that's why Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, like that Nuggets team gave us some more problems. And then again, with the Pacers, they're just an absolute nightmare for anybody.
Yeah.
Because they were out there drilling like the most contested threes I've seen in my entire life. Like,
and they didn't care. Yeah.
No, they just don't care. They'd have a hand in their face, and it's like, oh, here's Obi Toppin hitting his 4th 3 of the night, because why not? Oh my God, no one's ever. While I'm here, TJ McConnell, there's never been a player
TJ
more terrifying
McConnell,
in my
bro.
entire life.
Oh my God, bro.
Than 2025 NBA Finals TJ McConnell. Like, legit, that the picture of SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs they talk at the campfire, that's exactly what I'm talking to my grandkids about. 2025 Finals TJ McConnell. Like, yeah, he just, especially because I was there for Game 5.
Yeah.
Denver, PJ Washington is really good, but TJ McConnell was doing something different.
He was frying Isaiah Joe, man. It was getting bad.
It was Cason Wallace. It
Everybody.
was Alex Caruso. It was Lou Dort. It didn't matter. And at Game 5, they made that run, made that comeback to come back within, I think, 3 or 2, or like it was somewhere a 1-possession game. And it was because TJ McConnell had like a 14-point third quarter, and he's hitting like and one mid-range jumpers. He's shooting over the outstretched arms of like Chet Holmgren, and it just doesn't matter. It was crazy to witness. So that was the thing with the Pacers series. Is I felt like the Thunder were the better team, but like people talk about, whatever kind of magic Pascal Siakam's eyes rolling back in his head, whatever it was that the Pacers had in this run, it was real. People might not believe it. People might be like, there wasn't really any magic to it. Like, legitimately, I've never felt more like, oh my God, we might just be playing the team of destiny at some points against this Pacers team.
Yeah, I gotta say this, man. I think the Pacers and the Thunder both being in the final, like, those are both two of the deepest teams in the league, but those are also both two of the most team-bound teams. I think the thing that made the Pacers so dangerous, and I said this right before the playoffs after seeing how much better they looked after the All-Star break, because they had like a rough beginning overall to the season, right? But in the playoffs specifically for them, the fact that everyone is a threat, where everyone can attack a closeout, everyone can shoot. And when I say everyone, I mean Miles Turner. Obi Toppin can make some crazy threes as well. TJ can't shoot, but he can flat out go get you a basket, can drive.
I mean, even in the finals, like, we'd leave him open and be like, okay, and he would just drill everything we left him open for. Like,
he would still make some shots. Like they have threats all throughout the roster, which is why the matchup for them was so fun. Because to me, this was like the best defense versus the best offense, and we got a full 7-game series. I'm still sick that we saw Tyrese Halliburton go down in Game 7.
100%, yeah.
I hate that so much because there's gonna be a bunch of Reed don't count, Tyrese got hurt, but at the same time, it's like just basketball wise, like the purity of what that full Game 7 could have been. I wanted to see that.
Yeah, like legitimately. So I was there for Game 7, and like no joke, like the air went out of the building for a few minutes when he went down. And being there in person, I didn't get to see the replay or what happened on TV. So I immediately tweet out like, oh my God, like Tyrese is down. And I immediately get this flood of replies and people are like, it was an Achilles. Like that was 100% what it was.
100%.
And I was like stunned. Like I feel like I didn't, was still obviously very invested in the game, but I felt like there was almost a haze in my mind for the next half, for all the way up until halftime. And now that the series is over, just, because this year, like the Celtics are kind of out of it, I feel like the Pacers would again be the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. And it's what we talked about earlier, where nothing is ever guaranteed in basketball. Nothing's ever guaranteed in the NBA. You're like, you can, for as much as you want to be like, oh, they'll be back, like they might not be. Like Miles Turner's gone now, and what are they going to do with the future of the center spot? And
we don't know.
Siakam's, he's not old, but he's getting into his mid-30s. Like he's, getting there a little bit. It was just, it was unbelievable that it actually happened. And there were people like immediately assuming that because I'm a Thunder fan, I'm like over the moon, excited, jumping up and down in my seat. But like, yeah, as much as I'm a Thunder fan, like I just love basketball. And like this Pacers team, genuinely one of my favorite non-Thunder playoff
very
teams
fun team to watch. Absolutely.
Like I don't know how anybody could have not liked the Pacers unless they beat your favorite team, then like sure, I guess. But as a fan of a team in the Western Conference, like to just watch that run all the way through, I'm like, I hate it has to be us that has to end their run. But we've got the Thunder obviously pushing for them. But if it was like almost anybody else in the Western Conference, probably anybody else other than the Thunder, maybe like if the Nuggets, because I would have been rooting for Russ to get a ring kind of thing. But anybody else, I would have been rooting for the Pacers just because of how insanely fun they were that entire run. So I love Tyrese. I love that Pacers team. I absolutely hate that that's the way it ended. And then, you've been this, I'm sure, as a Warriors fan, you've been through the whole asterisk ring talk. Like
absolutely.
It happens every single year with every single team. And, I'm sure people aren't like, the news comes out that J-Dub, his hand wasn't right the entirety of the playoffs. And people don't want to talk about that. Or, Chet having broken his hip midway through the season and not really looking like himself in the playoffs. Yep. There's never been a run. Like you could put an asterisk on every single ring if you really, really wanted to. So I will say one person was pretty funny. Like was it so I'm signed on as talent with Snapback Sports, and we do some trivia, and we were filming a trivia TikTok, and we actually got the Larry O'Brien trophy in the office to record with, which was super cool. So I got to hold it and stuff like that. Like that's my profile picture on Twitter. And because I was aura farming, I changed it the second the Thunder won the title to me holding the Larry O'Brien trophy.
Respect. Okay.
I had that set up. Like, he thinks he's on the team type stuff. So like I immediately changed it. And within like probably 15 seconds of me changing that and tweeting out #new profile pic, someone commented, was like, fixed it and put this big asterisk on it, which was honestly kind of hilarious. Like how quickly they executed that. So
they got you quick, man. That's tough.
It was fast. And it wasn't the first time I went through it in the playoffs. Like there was the video of me crying that went way more viral than I thought it was going to. That was a thing for quite a bit. So
yeah. So I want to say this too, right? Before you won though, like I do got to give flowers. Jalen Williams, like I want to have a whole segment on him, primarily because of the smut that was on his name after the post-season series versus the Mavericks. And then even like this year, like I remember mid-Denver series, they were trying to trade him immediately for Kevin Durant. I remember how that was going. But then specifically, the way he stepped up when OKC absolutely needed him, when they were facing elimination versus the Pacers. Like, he stepped up in so many critical ways where they're down so many points, but he keeps driving. He gets to the free throw line over and over and over, and he buys time. So when Shea wakes up and turns up in that fourth quarter, that can happen because of the equity J-Dub had built for the Thunder. I really cannot say loud enough how impactful he was, and the fact that he was hurt, but also just how young he is into his career. He's going to be a very important player for this team, man. He was so key for them.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find real quick. There's a list of a very few guys who did what he did this season at this age. Let me see. I got to find it. What day was it? Jalen Williams Day. I think it was 2 days ago. Okay. Yeah, it was Jalen Williams Day a couple days ago in Oklahoma City. Shout out to J-Dub Day. But he was one of 6 players ever to make all NBA, all defense, and win a title in the same season, 24 or younger. It's him, Walt Frazier, Kareem, Bill Walton, Tim Duncan, Kobe. Obviously, all timers, Hall of Famers, like very, very exclusive list. And he's also one of those, one of those guys where I feel like people don't really realize what they're witnessing in real time. Where I think now that the Thunder won the championship, some people have started to realize, but he is such a crazy talent, one of the best defenders on the planet, which Happy made all defense. One of the best defenders on the planet, a very versatile offensive player. And yeah, I mean, he went out there and dropped a 40 ball in the NBA Finals with a torn ligament in his hand that a lot of players need surgery for. There was someone that it just got announced that they needed surgery. I can't remember who it was. And it's like basically the same thing. And it's like they're going to be out like 6 to 8 weeks. And he was playing through an NBA Finals run. Yeah, I think it was Derek Queen, Emperor. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got a hand injury. He's going to be out for a while now. But that's what he was playing through an NBA Finals run as the second option. And he was able to do that type of stuff. And it's again where people come to this conclusion where last year, yeah, he wasn't great against the Mavericks in that series. And that people immediately are like, okay, he's never capable of being a 2 option on a championship team because I saw it happen once in his first ever playoff run. And then he has all these massive moments over the course of this championship run. You know, he's hitting big shot after big shot. That clip that Tank just sent in the chat where he's, hits that big 3 in Game 5 and he yells at his wrist. Like, there were signs throughout, but nobody knew that he was going through that. He wasn't making any excuses. Yeah, Denver just sent in the chat. People were trying to trade him in the Denver series.
Legitimately.
I think after we lost Game 3 and he really struggled, they were like, people in my time on Thunder fans, like, yeah, we got to trade Jalen Williams.
I was debating people post game about it, like right after the game, and they're like, yeah, so 2 firsts, KD, this play, that play. Like, whoa. Like, the series is still going on.
Exactly. I would go play pickup hoops, and it's a lot of Knicks fans living up here in New York City, and they'd ask me, knowing what I do, like, oh, what do you think about the Knicks? They're playing the Celtics right now. Do you think they could win? Oh, they're up 2-0. What do you think they're gonna do? This and that. But also, they're all asking me as a Thunder fan. They're like, do you think you got to trade Chet and Joe Williams or one of the two for Giannis? Like, what do y'all think you do this offseason? I'm like, I still think we're gonna win the title. Like, let's wait a little bit. And if we get eliminated, we can, think about it. But it just, I have this tweet. I bet I can find it real quick. And there were some, especially Lakers fans, going crazy in the quote tweets of it, where I said that J-Dub was going to go crazy these playoffs. Like, I was very confident that he was going to have a great playoff run. And that was the day before the Lakers had that game where they won decently comfortably over the Thunder, and Joe Williams struggled. And like, immediately all these Lakers fans clowned it, like, okay, yeah, for sure, man, he's definitely going to have a great run. And now here he is as an NBA champion putting up a 40 ball in the NBA Finals because people just don't want to accept what they're witnessing, I guess. I don't know.
People don't appreciate greatness. And again, to me, this just speaks to the era that we're in where people want microwave results. They don't want to see the process or the grind, right? Like, people cannot stand one loss. And I kept saying all throughout the series, I have OKC. I'm not changing my pick. They're in trouble, yes, but this is the point of a series. You have to go through these troubles and these problems. And that's why I still feel like that Denver series was so important for the growth of this team to go through those things and fight against that adversity, because every championship team has to go through that. At some point, that matters. So they were able to do that. So I thought that was huge for them. But we're now in the offseason. This is a special time right now because there are absolutely no hoops going on whatsoever. And I think it's very important to check mark where we are and know what our expectations are. To me, I genuinely believe, and I'm not just saying it because they just won, I genuinely believe basketball-wise, OKC is in the best position to repeat. Now, I know people have not repeated since my team. Shout out to my team. We did that. But I genuinely feel like when you survey the league, they have the best shot. Now, there are teams that have improved and gotten way better. The Spurs, the Rockets with, I would say, Kevin Durant. The Eastern Conference, we'll just pause that for right now. But
yeah,
OKC genuinely has a great chance ahead of them. And again, I think it could get really scary because, again, Chet missed a bulk of games. If Chet can just play 60 games this year, that's a net positive overall.
Yeah, we dealt with injury last season, I mean, they're my favorites going to next year. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by me saying that. I do think Denver got a good bit better. Like, to me, it feels like
I agree.
the Thunder at the top. I'd have Denver number 2. Then probably Cleveland. I feel like the Cavs, a lot of people are just out on them at this point. I'm not. I do think there are concerns that could be raised about a smaller backcourt with Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, but I'm just too high on what they did in the regular season. I think they just ran into a red-hot Pacers team and dealt with real injuries that disrupted them a little bit in that second-round matchup. So I still think the Cavs are one of those upper echelon teams. The Rockets are obviously up there with Kevin Durant, the defense that they bring. And I mean, Amon Thompson is unbelievable.
He's crazy.
Think he's going to have a huge year. Then you get to like kind of the Knicks, and you could talk about like maybe a Clippers or a Wolves, or maybe the Al Horford Golden State Warriors with D'Anthony Melton. We'll see on that front. Which, by the way, if y'all can get Malik Monk in a first for Jonathan,
that'd be huge. That'd be huge. I would take that. I'll take that.
I don't know what the Kings are doing, why they're so desperate to get rid of Malik Monk, who's just a good basketball player. But
yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Thunder. We're in a better spot this year than we were last season, assuming health can stick around. Because another year of development for the young guys, like Shea's gotten better every year of his career, and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, I think, still have so much upside. Cason Wallace, and I think AJ Mitchell could bring a lot to the table this year. Nikola Topic comes in as a rookie, unsure what he's actually going to provide, but just as a potential playmaking punch, he's a nice wild card to have. You still got all the other role players like Alex Caruso and Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe, and I'm interested to see what like Thomas Sorber can do in somewhat limited minutes. I don't think he's going to play too much, but he'll get run. Like the Thunder will run 13, 14-man rotations early in the season like we like to do. And for some reason, nobody took, Demon Brandon Carlson from us. Cavs killer, which is incredible to see. So, I mean, yeah, it's a really deep team. One of the best players in the world with Shea, the MVP. I'm interested to see who wins MVP this year. I kind of just think it's going to be Shea or Jokic again.
That's what I was going to ask you. So like, I think a lot of people would have OKC as their favorite. I think the MVP race is very interesting because, again, I think there's a chance that people might try to introduce the idea of there being voter fatigue. But I think OKC's in play to win even more games next year than they did this year. And if that's the case, we're talking about back-to-back historical years. And if Shea is the same caliber, if not better, which he can definitely still be better next season, I don't see why he can't go back-to-back as MVP. Now, that might be a bit harder. I think the best outside shot outside of those two guys is probably Giannis, mainly because of how overall inept this roster is around him. If they're able to be like very, very good out east, he might have a chance. But I still think the two in the driver's seat have to be those two for sure.
Yeah, like people are talking about Giannis potentially as a threat to win MVP, and he's that caliber of player. I just don't think the Bucks will be very good.
That's the problem with that for me. Yeah,
I think there are 6 teams I feel firmly are better than the Bucks in the East. So if they're a playing team, like I don't really see Giannis.
I mean, but that's their case though, right? Like we believe this right now, but if there's any reason why they would be top 3 in the East, it would have to be his play being that.
That's true. Or Kyle Kuzma is a good basketball player for the first time in like 5 years. That's also
that's rough, Cone. That I I don't know.
I mean, if they're like, because right now for them it's like, okay, Giannis is your one. Your second option, it sounds like, is Miles Turner, I guess. And like, who is the third option? Is it Kuzma? Is it Bobby Portis?
Probably Gary Trent.
Good Lord.
It might be Gary Trent.
Free Giannis. Yeah, so the Bucks, like with Giannis, I just don't think it's going to be enough for him to get there. People saying Luka, with Luka Doncic, he's going to put up great numbers again, and Luka he's that level of player.
He's an all NBA guy.
He's in the world.
He's great.
Yeah. But I also don't really think the Lakers are going to be up there at that point in the standings. I feel like there are 5 teams firmly better to me in the standings. We talk about the top 3 contenders with the Thunder, the Nuggets, and the Rockets. The Wolves and Clippers both feel better. And then I think it's like, the Warriors are really good down the stretch of last season with Jimmy. Mm-hmm. The Lakers were also at a pretty good stretch, but I worry about them a lot defensively. What is that team going to look like? Trying to guard basically anybody. You lose a good defender in Dorian Finney-Smith. And also, is Luka going to win an MVP with LeBron James on his team? I just don't think he's going to. Like, I just don't know if that. Like, will the media vote for Luka as an MVP with LeBron still on the roster?
That's my thing that people don't seem to talk about. Like, I think the LeBron tax for a player playing with LeBron James taking votes away from him when he still plays at a pretty good level, it's just hard to really see the voters being down for that. I can't really see that happening, but I think Luka is definitely prepping for maybe the best season of his career. And previously he's been a MVP caliber player. So it wouldn't shock me, but I think definitely the common pot you need is to be winning games. And I think the best two teams equipped for that in the West have to be Oklahoma City, and after that have to be Denver and the Rockets. I think those are like the three teams, but I can't see KD being in real MVP talks over Jokic and Shea. It's really those two guys for me right now still.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's not only do the Thunder Nuggets get a lot of wins, but they're both healthy. Like Shea and Jokic also put up insane stats too.
Yep.
You know, Shea's putting up like some of the highest numbers of 30-point games anybody's ever seen. And, you know, he's so consistent. And Jokic puts up these all-time stat lines every other night. Like, it's not just, oh, you're competing against these two guys who win a good bit. It's you're also competing against
their season
monsters.
Too. Yep. Yeah. So it's gonna be fun to see exactly how that overall shakes up. I'm super hyped. Like, I live in the off season a ton because to me, like, most people don't really watch basketball. It's like a pause or like a break. I'm back and I'm here to like really dive through all these teams. Every year I do this where like I break down all these teams because to me, one team is in OKC's same exact spot they were 4 to 5 years ago right now. And seeing the growth of that and the journey of that into how it is now really matters. Where there's like small shifts, small picks that like really transform the entire franchise. And now we're talking about a young OKC team that is in position to repeat, which would be so tough.
Yeah, actually, I'm just seeing now also. Oh, never mind. I almost got sent-out. I stopped myself. I almost got sent-out.
You almost got sent-out?
We were close. I'm not even going to say what it was. I'm not even going to say.
Bet.
I almost got sent-out. I thought the NBA opening like night schedule came out because I've been trying to figure out who the Thunder are going to play open on ring night, and it's like to me, but probably between like
it's probably the Rockets
or Houston. I think the Rockets feel like a good bet, and there was an account that fake tweeted it out, but they didn't get me because I read I think it was Scam Sharania, so they almost got me, but. Why the hell did Twitter do the verification badge for money? I don't know. Anyways, garbage app. But yeah, and I think it makes you just, you know, as creators too, like, you know, we're storytelling in the league and, you know, just lovers of the game. Like it's way more fun. There are people who are like, I don't care about this team. They're bad, this and that. But yeah, the Thunder were really bad a few years ago. It's like, who's going to be next up? Like eventually some team is going to jump in a big way. Almost every team, every year, some team takes a jump. And this year, you know, like it could be the Spurs if Wemby just really dominates and they get this great play from supporting pieces. Maybe it's somebody out in the Eastern Conference, like
Atlanta
goes
Hawks
ahead and takes a leap. Yeah, maybe the Atlanta Hawks. Like there's just so much fun there with the team building and the growth of squads. And it's so fun to watch that rise. You know, if you're just like there when it happens, it doesn't mean nearly as much as opposed to, you know, especially as a Thunder fan, like it of course means more to me. But I know a lot of people who like told me that from watching my videos and, you know, me recapping games when like Ludor hits a game winner against the Spurs coming out of the All-Star break in 2022, when it's like our 22nd win of the season. And people are like, oh my God, like I remember watching that video. Now they're champions. Like, you know, that progression is fun to see. So yeah, I mean, I kind of do a similar thing where I try to talk about a ton of teams throughout the off season and, you know, go through and like at least a week, I'll go through and try and make my predictions, like my standings, like how am I feeling about every team. And it changes every week because I'm thinking about it all the time.
Right.
Like it's my fiance will ask me, she's like, how are you able to just have these basketball conversations like just randomly out of left field? I'm like, because it's literally the only thing I'm thinking about all the time. So
yeah, no, I 100% feel that. I personally, right? So I took a 2-week vacation, but like normally what I do is I hit people up randomly through Twitter and I say, hey, you make content, I make content. I hope you like basketball. I love basketball. Let's talk about it. And thankfully, because I rock with Denver, and we painfully watch every Golden State game. We watched every game on camera VODs and all that last year. He said, yo, you should talk to Cole. And I'm like, okay, let's talk to Cole. And you were dope, man. This was a great conversation.
Thank you, man.
Honestly.
Appreciate it. Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm a rambler when it comes to the Thunder, so I know we went quite a bit, but
we love that energy.
I mean, it's a great time. Like, would love to talk again at some point for sure, man. Like, maybe link up for a Warriors Thunder game or something along those lines. I know y'all watch games and stuff on here. I've been on playback a few times. Did a few streams with Dom during the regular season. I think for
dope. Okay.
At least one of the Thunder Cavs games, and then I think maybe a Thunder Celtics game, something along that line. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a lot of fun, man. I'm glad we were able to finally link up for this. And yeah, Denver's all right. He's an all right dude, I guess.
He's okay.
Whatever. He's all
cool.
right.
In a black. But yeah. Overall, big shout out to Cole for being on the show. We are staying consistent, getting through this offseason. The goal right now for me is to upload 3 pods on 3 teams, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I'll let you know exactly when this pod drops, Cole. Feel free to tell the people where you would like them to go.
Yeah, for sure. It's just 3cone like it is on my name up here on playback, THREECONE, no spaces or anything over on YouTube. There's an underscore on Twitter because unfortunately the account without the underscore has been like inactive for like 8 years, and so I just can't get that account. It's underscore over on Instagram and no underscore over on TikTok. If you just search 3cone, it will probably come up either way, but I've been doing like some more short form content, but YouTube is the main platform. And through there, like I do a lot of videos too through Snapback Sports and any of their social channels. So those are linked in pretty much all my bios and stuff if you want to check those out. But yeah, appreciate you, Tank, linking it. I know, Tank, you were hyping me up in the chat throughout. I appreciate the glaze, man, for sure.
Always got to appreciate the glaze.
Man.
I want to say big shout out to Cone. If you want to follow me, like the video. When this is posted, we have a lot more things to get through. Had a great conversation with Cone here, but we're going to catch you in the next video. And as I always say, appreciate basketball. That's all.
Appreciate basketball.
Peace out, people. Have a good one.